Okay, so we've downloaded the software, we've clicked the icon, and this is the screen you will see. Let's have a look at what we've got on board. So you'll see some boxes here. If we start at the top, system, and flip over to the right there, you'll see it has practitioner details. Obviously this will give you an idea of your password and the email address and everything else, just so you don't really forget what's going on with your details. If we look at the customized demographics, these are the ones that I use. This is additional to all the other stuff you've got, but I think it's quite nice to have a marketing caption, and this is where I'll put down where they've heard of me, whether it's a referral or Google or all those other things. I think it's quite important to log those down with each customer, and also the postcode. I get a rough idea of how far people are traveling and where is the best place for me to do my marketing. So we click save, and that's that part done. When we've finished, and if our computer is still running, then we can log off and go on to other stuff. But before we close our computer down, it's really important that you log off the software. This is because there's so much information going on in the background, the software will get confused. So it's very important that you exit the software. The software will configure all the details, all the bits and pieces you've got on there, and that's that. If you don't do that, there will be a few issues down the road. Okay, next we go down to clients. We have client list, add new client, and the client condition library. So let's assume that we're starting from 0. Then the first thing we need to do is add a client. And what you'll see here is we can pop in the client's first name. We'll generally know who's coming to see us, so we can pop in their name, and this will give us a randomized number. Generally the first letter will start with their name, and then it'll give us a number. If we come down to here, the second bar, then we have a fairly inclusive list of everything we need to do, and so we can click one of those. Now the idea is not to change those, but you can actually add, and we'll go into this as we move forward. But let's assume that Matt has anxiety, and his age 25, and he's male, and these things we can fill in later. And actually the age you're probably not going to know, so you can fill this at the end of the day or the end of the week, whenever you choose to do this. And so we click save. Now it will automatically bring up their details, so we can see here we have the name and their number. Now if, for example, you're working with a specific phobic response, and you want to know, rather than putting anything extra in here, let's say we have a specific fear or phobic response. Let's click this one here and change that. Okay, so what specific phobic and fear response is it? So if we go to remarks, we can then pop in here, for example, spiders, and that'll just give us a rough idea of where we are, and that'll be saved in there. So the status is started, and of course we can change this as it goes along. So is it progressing, is it complete, or basically did they cancel? You can change that as you move forward. Okay, so we've got their details up, and now what we want to do is to start. Let's assume that they've come to see us, and before they come to the consultant, we bring up their file, and then we'd hit this little green button here, and now it brings up the 7 key areas. And so with the format that you've been taught, then what we'll do is we'll get the customer, the client, to fill in these 7 key areas. So of course this would be 0 and this would be 10, and we ask them with our language patterns where they are, and they would click where they feel they are in those 7 key areas. As soon as you've done the last one, the save button will come up. They can adjust it if they want to. If they're happy with that, then we can click save, and automatically a graph will come up. And of course, this is the very starting point, very first starting point, so it really doesn't matter. It's not particularly spectacular, but it will look a bit more impressive as it moves forward. So this is their starting point, and that's that done. We can close that. So let's have a little look at the client list. Obviously these are fictitious. It's the training computer, but we can see all the various aspects along the top, and everything, like we mentioned earlier, can be changed. But the wonderful thing about this is, let's say for example, let's pick on J2, we can have a real good look at what's gone on in there. We can see all the various aspects, thoughts, interactions, activity, confidence, strengths, resources, achievements, etc. And we can kind of compare what's gone on and where and how, and maybe an area where we haven't been able to do so well in. But you know, one of the nice things I think which is beneficial for the customer is generally when this is going in the right direction. This isn't a good example. I just chose one which went right down. We'll come out of here and go into a more positive one. Let's have a look at this one, perhaps, for example. Okay. I think I've been playing around with this and giving some wonderful examples, but here we can see this is kind of a realistic one, really. We start to see a great bit of change after the initial consultation. Might see a slight dip with the reality of the way forward, and then on we go, and then we're in the perfecting maintaining phase. We can see the level of improvement, which is critical, and of course that percentage seems a lot, but that is the actual amount of change taking place from when they started and when they're finished. And of course we can interpret that into research if and when we choose to. But what's nice is that you have the ability to print out those charts for the customer. So let's say, for example, this is the last session, and they're doing amazingly well, and if you want to, you can print that out and you can email it to them or whatever you want to do, but they'll have the ability to have that for as long as they want to. I won't go into all the bits and pieces here. You'll sort of get this, you'll get the idea of it as you go along, but there's just so much you can do with this kind of area, but I'm guessing we won't have that much time, but who knows. Okay, another area really is the reports. I'm not going to go into too much of that now, but basically if we click on here, it'll give you 4 areas: session progress analysis, session change analysis, excuse me, time frame progress analysis, and time frame change analysis. The difference between those two is this is obviously a progression as the session continues, and this doesn't care about the progression, i.e. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is only interested in time. And it's quite important that these two are different, because we can look at the amount of change taking place over a time frame rather than session. So let's just click that, and we'll go for all areas except those which have been cancelled, all condition, all attributes, both male and female, all ages, and any sessions. And we don't need to put in a date really unless we desire to do that. And it can give us, this is an overall average of everything, all your customers that you've worked with, and we can see that's pretty impressive. They've all generally had a good jump up, and so on and so forth. And of course we can, if we want to, we can choose, I'm not going to do this because I probably haven't got enough information. I'll click anxiety, but nothing may well come up because there might not be enough information on there. Yeah, so if we haven't got enough, it'll say insufficient data available. But if we go to everything, we can see, and of course as usual you can print that chart out if you want to. Let's just go back to those reports and have a look at the change analysis. And this is one of the critical areas, really, I think. We have the ability to change the sessions, and let's say go from session 1 to 10, but you could have a look at session 1 to 3 or session 8 to 9 and see where the change is taking place for your own analysis. But if we have a look at this, we should start to see over a period of time a vast amount of improvement in a percentage wise, and this will give you an idea. And this is with all conditions and including all attributes. So it might be that you decide to just have a look at thoughts, for example, and see how that's changed. Maybe strengths, and so on and so forth. Let's just close that down. And one of the exciting things really is the global reports, because that'll give you an ability to see where you fit in comparison to the global mean. And the purple, of course, will be the accumulation of everybody involved in the research. So this will be the standard, the average of solution focused hypnotherapy, and where you fit in between. Now, no one will know, because the programmer's working in logic, if you like, so no one will know who has what. So there's no sort of ranking system, who does what, or who's first, who's best, whatever, but you'll be able to see where you fit in that area. But more importantly than that, it'll give you a prediction. And as we start to accumulate more information, you could, for example, pop in conditions, depression, and see what is expected of a solution-focused hypnotherapist and where it all finishes and how it progresses. And you'll find that your line will follow pretty much the same as everybody else's. Of course, everyone's life's different, but there will be, as we spoke earlier, there will be a prediction. That's kind of the way it is. Okay, and lastly, on the setup really and what's going on, you have the ability to back up to the cloud at any time you choose. So you just click that button and off it goes, backing up to the cloud, and takes a bit of time. There we go, CORP database successfully backed up to the cloud. Now, of course, the programmer knows that this is a test, so that'll be deleted straight away. And then it'll give us an idea of when this is backed up, and it'll give us a rough timing and date of the last restore. Okay, so that's a real good overview of how the system works, and enjoy. Okay, so let's have a look at the very basic format. So someone has made an initial consultation. We go to the client list. We then go down to the add new client. Joe. If we know the condition, we can pop it in. If we don't, it doesn't matter. But let's assume that they said via email or phone that they're feeling a little anxious and they'd like help. And we know they're female. We don't necessarily know their age. We can put in 0 if we don't know their age. But let's assume that we do. And if we don't know the age, we can put that in at the end of the day or the end of the week, whenever we choose. So we click save, and this is prior to the customer coming into the consulting room. We have their details up. We click the X green box, and then the format really is we go through the information gathering, and once we've asked them where did they hear about us, and they say either Google or Flyer or wherever it may well be. And then what I like to do is say what I'd like to do is I'd like to measure our outcomes, and we'd like to do this quite thoroughly, and we believe there's 7 key areas of wellness: and thoughts, interactions, activity, confidence, strengths, achievements and happiness. And we'll use our language patterns then to assess where they are. And of course, they will assess themselves where they are. And as usual, the save button will appear. And of course, this is, as we said before, a starting point. But now we close that, and now we have someone else in reception. We click, it's another Joe, and this is why it's critical to make sure that we have the different number on each of the client information gathering sheets, and so we know who we're seeing, because I've been down that road where you have several Joes or several Steves all on the same day, and the only reason I've been able to differentiate where they are is because of this number. And so we know where they are. We don't need to analyze any of that at this stage, because we're on the run, we're seeing people. We click the button, and now obviously on the initial consultation, this is done after the information gathering and before the brain-based stuff. But when we go into the general therapy, this is done at the end of the session. Now, as I explained in some of our training, we've done so much work in this area, it must be nearly a decade, and we found out what worked really well. And it's best to be done after the couch work, because you get a real true assessment of how they are rather than the immediate. And so obviously off they go. They've come off the couch, they're feeling okay, in a good state of mind, and they give you an assessment of where they are. And there we have our graph. And it's important to leave that graph up there until they leave the room. Once they've left the room and you've gone through your normal process, off you go to the next person. And the reason I'm doing this is to give you an idea of how easy it is. So you pull out your information gathering sheet, and you see that it's it could be any number you choose. I mean, I don't know what I've got on here, but let's just say, it was S16 and we couldn't see them at the time. So we bring that up. Okay, we haven't got any sessions, so here we are. This is an initial consultation. So off we go. Before, let's have a look at how the brain works. And that's our starting point. So we can see that this is super quick at working with customers. Literally, when I do this, it takes me seconds, as long as I know who I'm seeing, and that's a simple admin thing.